Welcome to Lifestyle Management, and I hope you'll enjoy this course and take full advantage of the content to benefit yourself presently and perhaps start or continue some habits that that will promote your own health and wellness throughout your whole life, and perhaps can even influence the health and wellness of people in your life like friends and family. This chapter is going to introduce you to health and wellness, what it is, some of the terms, definitions, as well as some of the introduction to strategies and the promotion and typical barriers for some people when approaching health and wellness in their own life. Excuse me. So, please make sure that you declare by signing up which assignment A or assignment B, that you're choosing to do by going to week 3 folder. And you'll see a folder that you can go into that will allow you to select by adding yourself to a group by signing up essentially to either assignment A or assignment B. When you select assignment B, you're also going to be open to a topic to select. Now this is not group work. However, you can then use that chapter as the format or the subject matter that you can do your assignment with. So you don't have to do it on the broad topic. You can find something in that chapter that interests you. So if you would like to choose your assignment, please review the assignment and then go to week 3 folder to make the selection. There's also a video that I've made to help explain it. Please take that opportunity and do that. Let's begin. Now we're going to start with health and wellness as a general topic, and then we'll work our way towards how more specifically we can take care of our health and wellness. Now many health and wellness programs are based on a very similar health risk reduction strategies. That is to say, we try to reduce the risks. Our textbook is going to focus more on Canadian views of this, and we're going to look more specifically at First Nations and Indigenous peoples' perspective on health and wellness well-being. So we're going to use, in fact, some of the material from the First Nations Health Authority, which created the First Nations perspective on health and wellness, where Aboriginal health emphasizes the interconnectedness between the physical and the spiritual world, between the individual and their environment, and between each of our mind, body, and spirit. And this guides the concepts of holism. Now, we're going to use this in our assignment A. The First Nations medicine wheel share traditional theology, philosophy, psychology, and the teachings of the Creator. The First Nations perspective on health and wellness has created a visual depiction to assist with the understanding of the meaning and the vision of wellness. Now we'll use this wellness medicine wheel for assignment A. Okay, now let's look at health and health promotion. In Canada, we value health. It's been on a bit of a decline, perhaps, of late, but let's begin with what is health. The World Health Organization defines health as not merely the absence of disease or infirmity, but a state of complete physical and mental social well-being. And that's an important first step in looking at health. Health isn't just about not being sick. Health is more about what are the things that we do to bring positive, physical, mental, and social well-being to our lives. So what are the prevention things that we can do? What are the good, positive things that we can do that build these supports and these preventions in that these diseases won't come upon us? In 1974, the Lalonde Report acknowledged that vast sums of money were being spent to treat illness, and that could, that these illnesses that we were treating back earlier were preventable. And the definition of health moved from measuring morbidity is the study of and measuring of disease, or mortality, which is the study of and the counting of the number of deaths. Instead of viewing it that way, viewing health as a part of everyday living. In 1986, Ottawa Charter Report identified 3 national health challenges. 1, reduced inequities in the population. 2, increase prevention efforts. And 3, enhance people's capacity to cope generally, if not more specifically. And the three mechanisms for health promotion were identified as self-care, mutual aid, and healthy environments. And this was a direction of health promotion, if you will, in the earlier 70s and 80s, was to get this movement away from treating illnesses and more towards promoting health. Health and wellness is an important national value and have several health agencies, programs, and initiatives that are engaged in this, to include Canadian institutes like the Canadian Institute for Health Information, the Canadian Population Health Initiative, Public Health Agencies of Canada, the Canadian Institute for Health Research, First Nations and Inuit and Aboriginal Health Branch of Health Canada. A term maybe you've heard before, Participaction, Physical and Health Education Canada. You'll see in on table 1.2 a number of other provincial initiatives and programs. Health is something that in Canada we value. Now, there is a branch of scientists who study when things aren't healthy, and this is a science of epidemiology. It's the study of how often diseases occur in different groups of people and why. Epidemiology can be used to evaluate health strategies, prevent certain illnesses in groups, and as a guide for healthcare providers. Now, it's an important element of science, and researchers can examine the distribution of disease in a specific population. That's called descriptive epidemiology, or it's going to investigate hypothesis or hypothesize causal factors, and that's called analytical epidemiology. So when SARS hit in North America, and we experienced a very big impact on SARS in Toronto. So when they go back and look at what occurred, that's called descriptive epidemiology. So what was the causes to that specific population in hospitals and in parts of Toronto? And then in other times they'll look at it and hypothesize, well, what if? And that's analytical epidemiology. So if we carry on with our topics, we're going to start looking at wellness and that what we know as the wellness movement. And so we can explore, what initiatives has been engaged in and what strategies around promoting wellness. Now, what is wellness? Wellness means taking steps to prevent illness and involves a capacity to live life to its fullest. So whenever we're doing things that enable us to live our lives to the fullest, we are engaged in wellness activities. Now, Dr. Bill Hetler co-founded the National Wellness Institute and developed the Lifestyle Assessment Questionnaire. It was redesigned as Test Well, and that there were 6 dimensions of wellness in this model. You'll find that in figure 1-4 in your text. And we're going to look at each of these dimensions individually. The social dimension, this dimension encourages a collective view of the world. So instead of seeing us as an individual, we are part of the bigger picture. That of contributing to society, helping others, and valuing the concept of interdependence between environment and ourselves. So the social dimension is sort of taking ourselves out of the immediate forefront of the picture and looking at how we are a part of everybody. Health educators are placing a greater emphasis on the sense of the social dimension of wellness. Now another dimension, the occupational dimension. Here we're looking at a well occupation. That is a well in brackets occupation is consistent with personal values, interests, and beliefs. In a well work environment, you contribute your unique gifts, skills, and talents and enjoy working. That is, enjoy the work that is meaningful and rewarding. If you are doing your work where you can get lost in it and be smiling while you're lost in it, where in a moment of candor you might say, I would do this job without any pay, even though you really wouldn't, that's when you're in, if you will, a job that doesn't feel like a job. It feels like a life choice. And that's what healthy occupation or a well occupation is. Now the spiritual dimension, which is another dimension of this model identifies one's basic purpose in life. By doing that, you learn how to experience love, joy, peace, fulfillment, and helping yourselves and others achieve the potential that are all aspects of the spiritual dimension. And that's a really important element. Spirituality has been described as transcendence, connectedness, a power, a force, an energy, and a connection to the formal religion or faith. But it could also be your own spiritual experience that for you separates yourself from the environment and for the things around you, and there's another dimension out there outside of yourself. The physical dimension, well, the physical dimension of wellness is met through participating in regular physical activities, maintaining a healthy body weight, avoiding harmful behaviors such as tobacco use, drug misuse, or excessive alcohol consumption. Now, it's also important to get medical attention when it's needed and to take care to use medical interventions such as prescription drugs properly. As physical wellness is pursued, a heightened awareness of the connection between body, mind, and spirit is experienced. All right, so now we've looked at a few. Let's look at one that we call the intellectual dimension. Now, with the intellectual wellness, we refer to our ability to think and learn from life's experiences, learn from our past. Your openness to new ideas, and your capacity to question and evaluate information. And that makes it an important element, because the more health and wellness we have in our lives, the more we are able, if you will, to explore other alternatives, to look beyond what is typical and usual for us. The emotional dimension. Emotional wellness includes the degree in which one feels positive and enthusiastic about yourself and your life. It's also involving the awareness and acceptance of a wide range of feelings in ourselves and in others. When you are emotionally well, you have the capacity to express and manage your own feelings and to work independently, but also to recognize the importance of being able to ask for help and support when needed. This is also termed in psychology as emotional intelligence. Now, the authors have introduced a seventh dimension of wellness, and they call this the environmental dimension. And under this, the environmental wellness includes being respectful of and attempting to live in harmony with nature. It means ensuring that the stability and longevity of our natural resources and demands leadership and long-term coordinated effort from all of us. And so that was the seventh one that was introduced by the authors. Let's now move on to the health challenges that might affect one's ability to get healthy in spite of all your best initiatives. And one of the reasons, or one of the issues, is that of demographic growth. When we think of a population, a demographic, there's trends in demographic growth that can affect the healthcare services. And one of those trends that is emerging, that's affecting the ability of services to support people's health and wellness, is the rising costs that are associated with cancer and heart disease, which are two leading causes of death for Canadians. That's followed by lower respiratory diseases and type 2 diabetes. Now, hypertension or high blood pressure is a major contributor to poor health, affecting 1 in 5 Canadians. Research indicates, and this is important in regards to why some people, in spite of their best efforts, will actually get better, where we can live can have an impact on our lives. And the years of potential life loss, the YPLL, are greater if one lives in northern regions of Canada. And you might wonder, well, why is it? You seem to be away from pollution and everything, but you're also away from services. Hospitals are not as dense in the north. Doctors don't tend to want to go to the north to serve as frequently as they might want to go to the larger cities, where one, they can make more money, but two, they can also have bigger impact on people's lives. Mental health issues are also a concern in this capacity. Canadians are now living longer, so as a demographic, the population is getting older, not younger. And the costs are also therefore getting greater to support Canadians as they age, and the availability of healthcare services can also be a significant challenge. Some social determinants outside of the demographic ones, there's social determinants. That new research in the area of social determinants in health supports the notion that income distribution, education, unemployment, job security, employment and working conditions, early childhood development, food insecurity, housing, social exclusion, social safety net, health services, Aboriginal status, gender, race, disability. There's a long list. They all are very important in terms of determining one's health and wellness status. That depending upon our relationship to any of the above mentioned, and you'll find those on page 12 to 15 in your textbook, can have a huge impact on whether or not the desire to get healthy is possible. So you want to take action. Well, you've considered all the other variables, but let's look at the 6 key strategies to enhancing social determinants of health. So we can begin with adopting a framework for social inclusion. So when we're talking about key strategies to enhance social determinants of health, 1 is framework for inclusion. 2, promoting full employment, job security, and healthy working conditions. 3, protecting universal access to our high-quality healthcare system. Now that certainly has been taking some hits, and there's some quality issues regarding equal distribution of services. Protecting Canada's high-quality public education system. We saw an example of that with the strike in the college system in the fall. That was a fight for higher quality education system, ensuring that the right of all Canadians have adequate housing and food. Reducing income disparity by ensuring minimum wages and levels of social assistance. And we see that occurring right now with the increase of minimum wage. And we also see the blowback that occurs when that starts to happen. And then lastly for this part, we're going to look at the health of college and university students. Of course, it's a big group. It's a group that has a lot of other pressures that may not be something a part of every other life element. College-age men are more likely than college-age women to engage in risk-taking behaviors. And that's not brand new or unique. However, it's a reminder. Dormitories and residences have proven to be breeding grounds for serious infectious diseases such as meningitis. Secondhand smoke can pose long-term threats to smokers' roommates, and binge drinking imperils drinkers as well as those who surround them. Undergrads, face risks to their psychological health. College students report more distress than the general population or their peers who are not enrolled in college. The variety of roles that students play. They could be parents, they're students, they're parents they look after their own parents, they have their own health issues. They may also have part-time jobs, and you are all aware that these are kind of the balancing that many students go through. First-year students suffer the most in terms of physical and emotional well-being. Being away from home, perhaps for the first time, cooking your own meals and not knowing how to do that very well. And increased education has long-term health benefits. So generally, good for you for choosing this course, as there's much information that you can use to minimize many of these risks, and in fact that you can protect yourself from some of these risks. I would hope that this has been helpful. This has been part 1 of the introduction to chapter 1, and there will be a part 2 that will follow, and you'll find that in the week 1 folder. All right, everybody, keep it up and good work.